Welcome back. We have Tim Moy with us today, who's our Chief of Security, and we have a really touchy subject today, driving under the influence. And I hear there's been a couple of issues here, and everywhere, really.
Right, everywhere. I mean, despite even, the national campaign, Don't Drink and Drive, we've got our checkpoints by law enforcement. So there's so much that is done out there, yet we still continue to see it, and it's a tragedy in our nation. I think that I think it's right around 29 deaths every day from drunk driving. That's one every 50 minutes.
Wow.
So
and is that nationwide, or is
it is? That's nationwide.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but still not a good thing for sure. What are some of the numbers that we're looking at here in the village?
Yeah, so statistics will show us that driving under the influence is not as prevalent with a senior community, but that doesn't mean it doesn't occur here. So we do see some DUIs, driving under the influence. The sheriff's in, they're doing their job. So it's I wouldn't identify it as a problem, but it does occur, and I think that our residents need to be aware of that and take the extra precautions if they decide to go out and have a few drinks.
So we're looking at a picture here where they have a man on the side doing looks like a test, right?
Right. Correct.
Now, is that something that they do inside the village as well? I mean, like if you were working or one of your guys were working, would they actually do something like that?
Now, we would not.
Okay.
So we are security, we are unarmed. Even though this is private property, we can make car stops in the village. But when we come across some type of criminal act, and this is driving under the influence, we call the sheriff in.
Oh, you do?
And the sheriff will conduct those field sobriety tests. So we will hold that person until the sheriff comes in. And I got to tell you, being a deputy out in the field back in the day, if I was pursuing someone and they were trying to get home and they sped up, I remember doing a field sobriety test right in front of someone's residence, and I had no qualms about taking them to jail.
Right.
You drink and drive, you pay the consequences. And,
exactly.
the neighbors were out there looking; it's embarrassing, but that's on the driver. And so for inside here, the village, if a deputy stops a resident, whether it's a vehicle or a golf cart, and determines that there's alcohol in their breath, and then they're going to run through the field sobriety test.
Wow. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So what's happened here in the village to sort of bring this up?
Right. So we had 2 accidents over the weekend.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that they were alcohol related. 2 individuals were arrested. So we're going to call it an alleged drunk driver at this point. They're innocent until proven guilty. But one was at gate 1 on a Saturday evening. Driver turned into gate 1, took the turn too wide, and took out a light post right on the sidewalk, right next to the sign. Thankfully, there was no pedestrian there.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
The sheriff came in, obviously, so you've got a traffic collision there.
Right.
And then the person sped through the community,
they
fled
sped
the
away.
scene. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So our security, first of all, our ambassador, hey, great job by our ambassador, immediately called it in. Security, because we're in the community, we got there, we were able to track down the vehicle, and then the sheriff came in, and the sheriff made the arrest. So great collaboration.
Okay.
Kind of a negative, incident, but it's good to know that the response was there.
How drunk were they? Do we know?
I don't know what the blood alcohol level, so you've got a few tests. You can take the breath or the blood.
Okay.
But my understanding is it was pretty clear cut.
Okay.
You're taking out a light pole, and then
you're speeding away.
Right, and then you speed away. The second one was at gate 3, and this individual was actually inside and pulled around by the gatehouse. Instead of hitting the brake, she, elderly woman, hit the gas across over the center divider and hit the wall.
Oh, jeez.
Right. Ambassador did a great job. He immediately called, checked on the welfare, in comes security, in comes the sheriff, and another arrest was made.
Wow.
So, right now, 2 accidents over the weekend. Is that cause for concern? Well, we never like to see accidents,
right.
and we know that there's a lot of social events that take place in and around the village. So we just want people to be careful.
Right.
So is that a concern to us? Absolutely. Am I telling our people when they're making car stops, when they're behind a vehicle, are they watching late at night for the swerving? Sure,
Right.
Is it possible that somebody could be tired, just fatigued on the road? Absolutely.
Right.
But that's what officers find out when they make a stop.
Right. Okay. So, you know, as you get older, things change. You might be taking medication or something. I mean,
right.
But also just physical changes. I mean, you might not be able to drink as much as you used to,
Sure.
so you don't really know what your capacity is.
Right.
So tell me about some of the other factors that sort of influence the impairment.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many different factors that cause impairment, and it may be someone's, as you mentioned, someone's age, their gender, their weight. Now, I'm 6'2", I'm 225. My wife is 5'3", and not 225.
Right.
And so when we're out to dinner, I can have a glass of wine. It won't bother me a bit. For her, with her metabolism, with the way her body is, she has a glass of wine. I know she's not driving. And it's kind of interesting. And she's not a .08. That one glass isn't going to do that to her. But some people react differently to alcohol. You know, and there's so many other factors. There's your wellness. Are you fatigued? Are you having some drinks on an empty stomach? Are you on any type of prescription medication? So there's all these things. It's just not about how much you consumed and the time you do it. If there's other things going on, it can have an impact on your driving ability. And there are some studies that have been conducted in reference to seniors, and as you mentioned, just the body changes, the alcohol is absorbed differently, and it can impact quicker.
Well, because I wonder if blood thinners have anything to do with how you absorb the alcohol.
Yeah, I'm sure that blood thinners and all the different types of medications that people are on.
Well, and they're taking so many too, so you never know what is going to impact. So obviously there's prescription drugs too that they're taking as well. So how, I mean, obviously there's labels and there's warnings and things like that, but if you're taking both, you know, drinking and taking prescription drugs, that's not a good combo.
Right, and we know a large percentage of our population in here either is taking, you know, over the counter or prescriptions. You just got to be careful. You got to read the label, know the side effects. It's a shame that there's a lot or a large number of people who don't read it and don't realize that this medication may cause dizziness, drowsiness. And so then you combine that with a glass of wine or a few beers, and next thing you know, you are impaired. You shouldn't be driving.
Right. Well, super scary. Now, you know, there's some statistics here, fatal traffic accidents that you had. Give us a, you know, when this is the prescription opioids, tell me some of those.
Right, so that has surged over the years, but so has the opioid problem. We know that's a national issue now, and we're trying to address it. And there's so many things you can point your finger at as to causing it. But the bottom line is, if you are taking a heavy dose of any type of opioid, whether it be codeine, oxycodone, morphine, boy, those are powerful drugs.
Strong, yeah.
And just in looking at statistics, since 1995, and with fatalities, it was 1% of individuals who were involved in fatalities, accidents, had some type of opioid. Now it's 7%. That's still a pretty big jump.
That is.
So it's a concern only because it's such a powerful form of medication. It does some very good things, but you decide to get behind the wheel and you get yourself in a 2,500-pound tank, and you're driving around there and you're impaired, and you cannot react quite as quickly as you once did.
Right.
And that's part of the issues when we get older. Just being out on the roadways, our reactions are slower. We don't react to things as quickly. Add a glass or two of wine, add a prescription medication, add something that's over the counter, add the fact that you're fatigued, you're not feeling well.
Right.
Hey, that's just a bad combination. So, as we're talking about, there's so many different factors.
Right.
Our recommendation: play it safe. Don't put yourself in a position where you may be impaired.
Right.
Take the precautions again.
Exactly. Right. And then talk to me a little bit about the campaign where you're talking about, don't drink and drive, report drunk driving, things like that, because we have a couple little icons that you sent over that I think are really important to see, because sometimes you are seeing these now on the roads.
Absolutely. You see them on the signs. Drunk driving, ruins lives, and don't drink and drive.
Right.
They've got all these, little slogans to try to get our attention. And they do it continuously because it's necessary, because the problem continues. So
Right.
our attitude is, hey, call a taxi, call an
Right.
Uber.
Uber and Lyft
call
are
a
so easy
friend.
now.
Right,
Right.
it is.
Right. I did a call a friend for you, the little phone there.
Right, there you go. Absolutely. But have a designated driver.
Right.
Obviously, I take a pretty hard stance to this. I've got no sympathy for drivers.
I've noticed.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
tell, my man. Do not
Right.
mess with Tim.
Well, I think we also see the results of it.
Right.
The tragedies, and someone who, hey, I don't think people intend to go out and say, man, I'm going to get
No.
intoxicated. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive home.
Right.
And then I'm going to miss that red light. I'm going to broadside a vehicle. I'm going to kill someone. Of course not. But it does happen.
Right.
So when we're talking about one fatality every 50 minutes, 29 a day,
Yeah.
let's keep it out of our
Right.
community.
Right.
And let's do our best to educate our family, our children, those we love,
Right.
to make sure that they do their part as well.
Right. And one last thing, which I thought was interesting, is that you can buy breathalyzers now from Amazon or Costco or
Correct.
wherever. So
Right.
how does that come into play? Like, how would you use that?
Yeah, so it's a tool. So if you're going to be socially drinking, and that is something that you do, and I'm certainly not here to preach against that. Again, I enjoy a good glass of cab or a few beers here and there on a Sunday afternoon, and you've got family, but you're eventually going to have to get on the road.
Right.
You can take that breathalyzer, and there's some really good ones out there. It provides a pretty accurate percentage of blood alcohol in the
Okay.
system.
Okay.
But it does not read medications.
Oh,
it does
that's
not
right.
read fatigue. It does
Right.
not read your wellness, and if you're not feeling good, and so there's those things as well. But I will tell you, if you're going to be somewhere for a few hours, and you take that about an hour before you leave, and now you start to watch, okay, you know what, I'm a 0.09,
Oh, okay.
and then you've stopped drinking, now you're putting some more food in your system, you're drinking water, doing all those types of things. 20 minutes before you leave, or what have you, you test it again, and now you're down to 0.04, 0.5.
Okay. Right.
So that's it's a great tool.
Okay.
I don't like it, hey, even at 0.04, 0.05, you're at risk.
Oh, wow.
We had a fatality down in San Diego where a young Navy corpsman was involved in an accident. I think he was on this phone as well. Killed 3 or 4 people. I think it was 4. They still convicted him for DUI.
Oh.
His blood alcohol, I think, was about a 0.04, 0.05. But based on all the other factors, they went after him for DUI, and as they should have. So.
Wow. So it doesn't really matter. Just don't drink and drive,
Don't
period.
drink and drive.
Okay.
Yeah, use
All
that
right.
designated driver, the Uber, everything.
Ubers, Lyfts. I have
Right.
a big bill.
There you go. Good for you.
Good
That's
for
great.
me.
Right.
Well, that's a double sword there, but anyway.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the
Yeah.
information. I appreciate it.
Good to see you.
You too. And remember, don't drink and drive, and always use a designated driver or an Uber or Lyft, even here in the community. We'll be right back after this.